So today let us talk about the alkaline earth metals, wherein we have spoken about the basic properties of alkaline earth metals. And in today's video, let us see the general characteristics of the compounds which are formed by alkaline earth metals. So first of all, you all know that alkaline earth metals are usually having divalent positive ions. That is, usually alkaline earth metals possess a +2 charged ions. Okay, so they are usually divalent ions which are formed. Okay, and also beryllium oxide and magnesium oxide are usually covalent in nature. Okay, as you all know that beryllium oxide and magnesium oxide, they have a smaller size because of the increased nuclear charge. That is, the outermost electron and the nucleus have a force of attraction. Because of this, their size is also small. Okay, this is the reason why beryllium has a different property or anomalous property rather than other alkali metals. Okay, so beryllium oxide is usually an exception whenever we study the characteristics of the compounds which are formed by these alkaline earth metals. Just like how you had lithium. Okay, lithium also, due to its smaller size, was said to be an exception. In the same way, beryllium oxide is also an exception in the case of alkaline earth metals. So talking about the first general characteristics, that is, let me talk about the category that is oxides and hydrides. Oxides and hydroxides. Okay, hydroxides. Hydrides we have already spoken in the previous class. Oxides and hydroxides. Now, oxides and hydroxide. How is actually an oxide formed? Whenever these alkaline earth metals tend to react with oxygen, they form metal oxides. So usually you have metals like calcium oxide, strontium oxide and so on. But kinetically, okay, beryllium does not form its own oxide. Okay, that is to be remembered. But in the case of oxides and hydrides, usually alkaline earth metals will combine with oxygen and form metal oxide. But the exceptional case is beryllium oxide. Beryllium oxide becomes an exception. So, as you all know, the reason is due to their smaller size. Okay, first of all, and also we know about the polarizing power of them. Okay, and they also have high hydration enthalpy. That is also a reason. Now, beryllium oxide, you should know some of the characteristics of beryllium oxide. That is, usually beryllium oxide, as I said, they are covalent in nature. Okay, this is one of the property of beryllium oxide. And also, these usually have a rock-salt structure. Okay, rock-salt structure is being exhibited by beryllium oxide, and this is also covalent in nature, and their oxides are usually amphoteric in nature. So, mainly if you see other oxides of these alkaline earth metals, they will be usually basic in nature, right? But if you take an example of beryllium oxide, they are usually amphoteric in nature. What do you mean by amphoteric? Which means that they can react with both acid and a base in order to give salt and water. But when you talk about metal oxides, they are usually basic in nature, but except for beryllium oxide, they are amphoteric in nature, which means that they can react with an acid as well as a base, tending to give the salt and water. Okay, so these are some of the important properties of beryllium oxide which resides as an exception. Okay, so usually if you talk about the hydroxides, okay, if you talk about the alkaline metal hydroxides, that is MO, okay, usually metal oxides will react with water, giving sparingly soluble metal hydroxides, that is MOH twice. This is the way alkaline metal hydroxides are obtained. If you take an example of calcium, they do not actually get dissolved in water completely. Instead, they become sparingly soluble, which means partially they are soluble in nature or in water. Okay, so calcium, if you treat with water, they form calcium hydroxide, which is sparingly soluble. So usually alkaline metal hydroxides are sparingly soluble. Sparingly soluble. Okay, so this is one of the things. Whereas get dissolved again. So this do not form an easy hydroxide. Just like how alkaline earth metals do, beryllium is an exception in that case. Okay. So as you all know that sparingly soluble hydroxides are formed by other alkaline metals except for beryllium oxide. And usually these oxides which are formed, okay, if you compare to alkali metal hydroxides with alkaline metal hydroxides, these are said to be unstable. That is, the alkaline metal hydroxides are usually unstable in nature. Okay, when compared to alkali metal hydroxides, these are usually unstable. That is one thing. So, if you talk about the amphoteric nature of beryllium oxide tends to react with a base which contain OH minus ions. Okay, it would form beryllium ion, that is BeOH4. It is just like a complex ion which is being formed wherever it reacts with the base. In the same way, if it is said to be amphoteric, that means it can also react with an acid. Okay, let me take the example of HCl. Okay, with some water. That would also give a complex, that is BeOH4 with fluorine. Okay, with fluorine. So this is how beryllium would react with the acid as well as base, showing amphoteric nature. So this is the basic idea of how the oxides and hydroxide property vary from one alkaline earth metal to another. So usually alkaline earth metals would form metal oxides. Okay, they are usually monoxides here. Monoxides are formed by alkaline earth metals, where beryllium oxide is an exceptional case due to its smaller size and high hydration enthalpy. And because of this, beryllium oxide is usually covalent in nature. Even magnesium oxide is also covalent in nature. Okay. Then they have a rock salt structure, and their oxides are usually amphoteric in nature, where it reacts with an acid giving a complex ion. In the same way, it reacts with a base. Okay, so that's how we prove the amphoteric nature. And metal oxides, the alkaline metal oxides react with water, giving sparingly soluble metal hydroxides which are unstable. Okay, so this is regarding the first property, that is oxides and hydroxides. Of the compound which we are talking about is about the halides. Now as you all know, halides are formed by the alkaline earth metals getting reacted with the halogens, right? Only at high temperatures it is possible. So alkaline earth metals, when they combine or when they react with halogens, they would form halides, where all the halides are actually ionic in nature. As I said, they are predominantly ionic, which means they are strongly ionic in nature, except for beryllium halide, which is actually covalent in nature. As you all know the reason, that due to their smaller size, they are actually covalent in nature, that is beryllium halide. Okay, and because of this covalent nature, they usually tend to dissolve in organic solvents. So they usually dissolve in organic solvents, whereas all the ionic nature alkaline earth metal halides dissolve in the polar solvents. Okay, so this is one thing which is to be remembered, that is beryllium halide is usually covalent in nature, where it gets dissolved in the organic solvents. That is one thing. And also, if you see beryllium chloride, okay, if you take an example of beryllium halide, that is beryllium chloride, okay, in its solid state, it will have a chain-like structure. Okay, that is one thing. It has a chain-like structure. So usually these beryllium halides or beryllium oxides are usually said to be aligned in nature. Okay, it has a particular orientation. Okay, so in the same way, beryllium chloride in its solid state would have a chain-like structure, whereas in its vapor phase, okay, in its vapor phase, it would tend to behave like a dimer. It has a dimer-like structure. Okay, which means that here beryllium, okay, it has a chlorine which forms a bridge-like structure where other beryllium is also connected. So it has has a chloro-bridge structure like this and goes on. Okay, so in this way they usually exhibit in the vapor phase. So if you try heating this at 1200 Kelvin, these would decompose in order to form a linear monomer. It won't be having such a big bridged structure, okay? Instead, it would have a linear monomer, which means one single group of atoms here, okay? So this is one thing, that whenever beryllium chloride is in the vapor phase, they usually tend to be in the dimer kind of structure, where you have the chlorine atoms bridged between each of beryllium atoms. So, but when it is heated, it actually decomposes to form a linear monomer at higher temperatures at around 1200 Kelvin. Okay, so this is one thing about beryllium chloride. And also, if you see the hydrated halides of all these alkaline earth metal halides, that is, if you see magnesium chloride, okay, what would be its hydrated, that is the water crystallization, it would be 6H2O, okay. In the same way you have calcium chloride, in the same way you have strontium chloride, barium chloride, all of these hydration, okay, it actually decreases down the route. Okay, the hydration power, usually barium chloride will be 2H2O, okay. So it starts something with a higher number and then it keeps on decreasing. Why? Because as you know, they have a greater size, okay. So the tendency in order to form hydrated salts would also decrease due to the increase in the atomic size, okay. So the tendency in order to form the hydrated salts would decrease for alkaline earth metals as the size of the metal atom increases or the atomic size increases. And one more point to be remembered is that usually alkaline earth metal fluorides, okay, fluorides, alkaline earth metal fluorides are less soluble when you compare it to chlorides. Why? Because they will have high lattice enthalpies. Okay. So this is one thing to be remembered. Once again, let me repeat that beryllium halide would be covalent in nature. So if it is covalent, obviously it gets dissolved in organic solvents. And beryllium chloride in a solid state will be a linear structure, where in vapor phase it would act like a dimer, which is bridged by chlorine. And the tendency of the alkaline earth metal halides in order to form the hydrated salts would decrease down the route because of the increase in the size, and also the alkaline earth metal fluorides is less soluble than the chlorides because of the high lattice enthalpy, high energy which is released. Because of that, fluorides will be less soluble. So this is regarding the halides. So the next property what we are going to study is about the salts of oxoacids. Now, as I have already told what are oxoacids, okay, they are the acids which contain a hydroxyl group where you have an oxygen atom and a proton, that is hydrogen, okay. So these are the salts of oxoacid. Now, usually alkaline earth metals, whenever they react with oxoacids, they usually produce salts. Now, there can be carbonate salts, there can be sulfate salts, there can be nitrates, right? So, different categories are being obtained by reaction with different acids. Now, suppose if they react with carbonic acid, they may give carbonates, okay? In the same way, if they react with sulfuric acid, then they may give sulfates. Or if they react with nitric acid, they may give nitrates. So, based on this, we will study one by one of the properties of all of these salts. So firstly, talking about carbonates, okay, usually carbonates, okay, they are insoluble, okay, in water, or they are actually insoluble in nature, and they can be precipitated by adding ammonium or sodium carbonate to that salt solution. So usually carbonates are insoluble, okay, and they can be precipitated by the addition of sodium or ammonium carbonate. Sodium or ammonium carbonate to the salt solution. Now what happens when there is precipitation formation? You can actually make it separate. Okay, so sodium or ammonium carbonate is being obtained. This can be added and it can be precipitated. Okay, so this is one thing about carbonates, and usually beryllium carbonate is said to be unstable. They are unstable in nature. Okay, as beryllium falls as an exception, beryllium carbonate is said to be an exceptional case where it is an unstable compound. Okay, and also the carbonate, the solubility of carbonate, it keeps on decreasing as you go down the route. Okay, as the atomic size increases, starting from magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium. Okay, all of these carbonates, when you go down the route, as it is increased in atomic size, the solubility of the carbonates also decreases. Obviously, when the size increases, the solubility decreases. This is what it means. So, whenever you have magnesium carbonate or all of these alkaline earth metal carbonates, the solubility decreases as the atomic size increases. Okay, this is one thing. And whenever these carbonates undergo thermal decomposition, that is, if suppose you take the example of magnesium carbonate. Okay, so here if it is undergoing thermal decomposition, it would give you magnesium oxide, that is a particular metal oxide, alkaline earth metal oxide, with the liberation of carbon dioxide gas. So this is how they undergo the thermal decomposition. Okay, so usually alkaline earth metal carbonates will undergo thermal decomposition to give metal oxides and carbon dioxide. This is one thing. And also the thermal stability of these carbonates increases with the increase in cationic size. Okay, so if there is increase in cationic size, that is talking about cations like calcium 2 plus, strontium 2 plus, if the cationic size increases, then the thermal stability would also increase. So this is regarding the carbonates, where they are actually insoluble and they can be precipitated by adding sodium or ammonium carbonate, and where beryllium carbonate is said to be unstable, then the solubility decreases as you go down the group because of the increase in atomic size, and whenever you heat carbonates, that is alkaline earth metal carbonates, they would actually give you metal oxides with the liberation of carbon dioxide gas. So this is regarding the carbon. These sulfates, that is talking about sulfates, whenever the alkaline earth metals reacts with sulfuric acid, they form sulfates, which are nothing but the salts. These sulfates, that is alkaline earth metal sulfates, are usually white solids. Okay, they are usually white solids, and these sulfates, especially talking about beryllium sulfate and magnesium sulfate, they are usually soluble in water. Okay, whereas other sulfates are, slightly insoluble. Let me talk about it. But beryllium sulfate and magnesium sulfate are usually soluble in water due to their high hydration enthalpy. Okay, due to their high hydration enthalpy, beryllium oxide and magnesium oxide are mostly soluble in water. Okay, so even if they have high lattice enthalpy, the hydration enthalpy overcomes the value of the lattice enthalpy, and that's why due to this property, beryllium sulfate and magnesium sulfate becomes really soluble in water. Okay, and the solubility of these sulfates keeps on decreasing from calcium, strontium to barium. Okay, so the solubility keeps on decreasing as the atomic size also increases. So this is regarding sulfates, where the sulfates are white solids. Usually beryllium sulfate and magnesium sulfate, very important to be remembered, they are soluble in water due to high hydration enthalpy, and the solubility decreases from calcium to barium sulfate. So the last type of salts which are formed are nothing but the nitrates. Okay, this would be the third. So nitrates, they are usually formed by carbonates whenever they react with dilute HNO3, which means your nitric acid. So whenever carbonates react with nitric acid, they will form nitrate salts on dissolution. Okay, this is one thing. So here, talking about nitrates, usually magnesium nitrate, if you take an example, okay, MgNO3 twice, okay, this would form a hydrated salt which contains 6 molecules of water. Okay, so magnesium nitrate would form a hydrated salt. Okay, whereas barium nitrate would actually be an anhydrous salt. Okay, that would be a hydrated salt, that is magnesium nitrate, whereas barium nitrate would be an anhydrous salt. So here, mainly you should know the properties of whatever compounds are being formed. Okay, you need not know each and everything in detail, but main points should be known. Okay, so barium nitrate would form an anhydrous salt. Now, the tendency in order to form nitrates actually goes on decreasing. It is just the same way how we have studied carbonates as well as salts. With the increasing atomic size, okay, with the increasing atomic size starting from magnesium nitrate, then you have calcium nitrate, okay, NO3 twice, then you have strontium nitrate, and then you have barium nitrate. The tendency of forming these nitrates keeps on decreasing as well as increase in atomic size. So it keeps on decreasing down the group as well as increase in atomic size. So this is one thing. And also, if you try heating these nitrates, just like how you have studied for lithium nitrate in the alkali metal groups, in the same way in alkaline earth metal group, if you take an example of magnesium nitrate, if you just try heating them or when it undergoes thermal decomposition, it would give stable compounds like magnesium oxide, okay, with the liberation of nitrogen dioxide. So this thing can be formed, and also some amount of oxygen is released. Okay, so usually they would give oxides, red oxides, with the liberation of nitrogen dioxide as well as the oxygen gas. So this is to be remembered that whenever the nitrates, alkaline earth metal nitrates, would undergo thermal decomposition, they would give metal oxides, nitrogen dioxide as well as oxygen gas. And exceptional case where magnesium nitride would form hexahydrated salt and barium nitrate would be anhydrous in nature, okay, which is not exactly a crystalline form. That is one thing where no water molecules are present, that is anhydrous, and the nitrates, the formation of the ease of hydration or ease of formation of these nitrates would decrease down the group because of the increase in the atomic sizes. So this was all about the general characteristic of all the compounds formed by alkaline earth metals, starting from the nitrates, carbonates and sulfates, where is it about salts of oxo acids, okay, and other things too, okay. So in the next class we will talk about the anomalous properties of beryllium as well as aluminium, their similarities and some of the compounds and their uses too, okay. So this was all about today's class, children. So see you in the next class. Thank you.